Imagination Storybooks by DCMP presents Grandma Marjorie and the Feathered Pirate by Melissa Robinson, illustrated by Olga Saul, narrated by Erin Reiman, audio description narrated by Richard Reiman. On the cover, wispy white clouds streak a light blue sky over a dark blue sea. A lighthouse is visited by a seagull, and a large ship with billowing sails nearby. Hovering in the sky, a blonde girl, Mel, is on top of a parrot in flight. Mel wears shorts and sneakers and an orange t-shirt. A rope is tied around the parrot's middle and loops through the air, where it is attached to Grandma Marjorie, who is diving toward the water. Grandma Marjorie has short, spiky gray hair and big round glasses, and she carries a yellow purse. The title in dark blue letters reads, Grandma Marjorie and the Feathered Pirate, written by Melissa Robinson, illustrated by Olga Saul.
You might not believe me, but my grandma, Marjorie Fish, isn't an ordinary grandma. She is magical. I couldn't believe it either, at first. Grandma Marjorie told me that when she was young, she decided to never grow up. So, instead of becoming an adult, she became an expert at making music, mud pies, and mischief.
Young Grandma Marjorie wears a purple dress. She has short, unruly brown hair and big round glasses perched on her little nose. She dances with a mouse, holding its little paws and swinging it through the air. She does a cartwheel through a puddle. A green and yellow parrot hovers above her as she tries to shape a rabbit out of a mud puddle, and she plays a big harmonica.
When I was little, she would do all kinds of tricks. But one day, the summer I turned 6, I learned just how marvelous she really is.
A gray parrot follows Grandma Marjorie around. As a grown-up, she uses a hose to make a puddle for Mel to jump in. While playing a piano, she juggles oranges with one hand.
That morning, I could tell that Grandma was up to something besides baking brownies.
A seagull outside of the window looks into Grandma Marjorie's kitchen. There are dishes in the sink. A bottle of milk and eggs are on the counter, and a long spoon is in a bowl of chocolate, which is dripping all over the cupboards. Grandma Marjorie holds a whisk and whispers to Mel.
"Would you like to go for a ride?" she whispered. "Oh, yes, please!" I loved riding in her golf cart. Sometimes she even let me drive.
In a sunny living room are a piano and a comfy flowered chair with a purple ball of yarn with knitting needles stuck in it. Stuffed animals and fish in the fishbowl watch as Grandma Marjorie and Mel march out the door. Mr. Misty the parrot flies after them.
She put on the cardigan we'd made together. She wears it all the time, even though I messed up the pattern. "Mr. Misty, sir, are you ready for a ride?" Grandma asked. He bobbed his head. Grandma's sidekick goes with her everywhere. His full name is Misty Morning Crimson Sunset, but we call him Misty for short. "Let's go, loves," Grandma said, as she twisted a tiny knob on her watch. "Are you ready, Mel? This might be a bumpy ride," Grandma said. "But what about the golf cart?" I asked. "Who said anything about the golf cart?" Grandma winked and squeezed my hand. Suddenly, my feet lifted off the ground, and we were spinning around like we were in a tornado.
Mel grips Grandma Marjorie's arm as they soar through the air, near the sea where a lighthouse stands on a rock. Boats are sailing along on the smooth surface. Grandma Marjorie and Mel and Mr. Misty spin in a circle along with various odds and ends. A fish or two, a mouse, flowers, leaves, splashes of water, and gray feathers that are flying off of Mr. Misty.
I opened my eyes. We were definitely not in the golf cart. We were flying, and Grandma and I were tiny.
Grandma Marjorie and Mel are riding on the parrot's back. They soar above a whole town with restaurants and a church and government buildings. An inlet flows from the sea through the town. Sailboats and motorboats make their way past the lighthouse, a lift bridge, a museum, an ice cream shop, a pizza place, library, bookstore, seaport, a mill, and the Mystic Aquarium.
There! Grandma yelled over the wind. I held on with all my might. We landed on top of the lighthouse.
Mel and Grandma and the parrot perch on the roof near the glass windows to the top of the lighthouse and look at everything below.
This is where I grew up. Grandma's voice sounded scratchy. Your daddy learned to swim and sail here. That's where he sank the motorboat. Just then, a huge seagull swooped down and stole Grandma's bag. Oh, no, you don't, you thieving scoundrel! She cried.
Grandma and Mel hold on to the bag as the gray and white seagull grips it in his beak. The seagull makes off with it. Misty flutters his wings and chases the seagull.
Thief! Stop! Thief! Thief! Give me back my bag, you pesky feathered pirate! When I turned around, Grandma was swinging a big rope in the air. Misty squawked. Thief! 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 Grandma lassoed the seagull and recovered her treasures. What would I do without my map and magnifying glass? She exclaimed. We were all catching our breaths when we heard people laughing on the ground below.
At the base of the lighthouse, a woman in a red dress and 3 boys are looking up at the melee on the roof and are doubled over laughing.
Oh, goodness, Grandma continued. We've drawn quite the crowd, haven't we? Sorry, Mel. I guess it's time to go. On the way back, Misty zoomed between the sailboats. Faster! Faster! I yelled. Grandma shouted, Watch this. She swung her lasso around Misty and knotted the other end around herself. Then she walked out on Misty's wing and dove off.
Head first, Grandma plunges toward the water. Mel is still clinging to Misty's back.
She somersaulted in the air all the way down to the water. Yahoo!
Grandma ends up landing with her bare feet skidding across the surface of the water like a surfer. She and Mel end up on the dock together, with Misty hovering above.
When everybody was back on the dock, Grandma held out her hands to me. Ready for those brownies? She asked. You bet, I replied. Grandma turned the tiny knob on her watch, and away we flew. Before I knew it, we had returned to Grandma's kitchen, and our normal size.
Mel sits at the table as Grandma Marjorie brings over a pan of brownies. Misty eats a banana.
Grandma's watch started chirping, and the brownies were just ready to come out of the oven. Wait, how long were we gone? I asked. Grandma just grinned and passed me a plate. Tell me more about when Daddy sank the motorboat, I begged. Oh, yes, that is a juicy story, Grandma replied. You know, the end of every adventure is the beginning of the next. What would you say to taking the rowboat out tomorrow? Grandma asked. Really? I could just imagine what kind of mischief Grandma would cook up on the river. Grandma, today was incredible, but no one will believe us. No, they probably won't, Grandma agreed. But you and I will never forget.
Outside the large window, the landscape of the green grass and purple flowers and big tree and dock and boats and lighthouse in the distance are clean and bright in the sunshine. Grandma Marjorie has her hand on Mel's shoulder as they talk. She smiles at the girl sweetly. This has been Grandma Marjorie and the Feathered Pirate by Melissa Robinson, illustrated by Olga Saul, narrated by Erin Reiman, audio description narrated by Richard Reiman. This has been a production of Imagination Storybooks by DCMP.